I am just looking forward to hearing your journey. So it's 6:10. Sumitra, over to you. I'll mute myself now.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Sumitra. So I'll be presenting today, and I want to really, I'm very excited to introduce the panelists today. So as you know, you've already heard a few of you. Our first panelist for today is Dr. Sara Iqbal, co-founder and lead of Superheroes Against Superbugs, and Regina Mtonga. Am I pronouncing your name right, Regina? Co-founder and director of Asikana Network. So I would like to say a few things about them and what they're doing in the field of STEM. So Dr. Sara Iqbal is trained as a researcher in life sciences and is currently an independent science engagement consultant in India. She holds a PhD in biochemistry from the University of Oxford, UK, and was a postdoctoral research fellow at the Scripps Research Institute, USA, before joining the Indian Science Funding Agency, DBT, or Wellcome Trust India Alliance, as their communications and public engagement lead. She is currently working as an independent consultant at the newly formed not-for-profit Foundation for Advancing Science and Technology, FAST India, in New Delhi, and serving as a strategic advisor to the India Science Festival. Sara is interested in exploring pathways to build capacity in science engagement in India and developing creative, inclusive, and participatory tools and approaches to enable public and policy engagement with science towards building an equitable, healthy, and sustainable future. Our next panelist, Regina Mtonga, is one of the 3 founding members of Asikana Network, an organization in Zambia that seeks to increase the number of females participating in STEM-related courses and jobs in Zambia. She is a SET Africa Fellow, Queen's Young Leaders Awardee, SCOL Young Leader Fellow, and as an associate fellow of the Royal Commonwealth Society, has used her knowledge in the technology space to grow a network of women harness their skill development using computers. Her organization utilizes the power of networks and peer-to-peer learning to educate the women in various skills such as coding and basic computer literacy. So now I would request Regina Mtonga to, take the session forward. First time I'm presenting, so yeah.
I missed the last part. I think you froze a little bit.
No, I said you can continue the session, and I'm sorry if I made any mistakes because it's the first time I'm presenting. So.
Oh, that's all right. But I think Sarah was supposed to present first. Is it? Am I correct?
Yeah. Okay. Sarah can present first.
Sure. I can go first. Not a problem. Then I can sit back and enjoy Regina's talk. All right. I'm just going to try sharing my screen. Just give me a second. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
All right, thank you. So, and I hope I'm also audible to everyone. If my connection is unstable or if you can't hear me very well, just shout out and I'll stop and look into my network connection. But I hope everybody can hear me. And I'm really delighted to be at this wonderful evening session organized by Vigyan Shala, and thank you for inviting me. And I usually feel very uncomfortable when I don't know who I'm speaking to. So hopefully in the Q&A session and in when you ask me questions or I ask you questions, we'll be able to get to know each other better. So maybe I'll even though I already have received a very nice introduction, but I'll quickly kind of take you through my journey so far, my academic and professional journey so far, and what have, and also perhaps share with you my key learnings, so that they might come in handy for you if you want to pursue a similar career in the times to come. So just very quickly, I've actually gone as back as my school, because I know that many of you are still in your undergraduate, in colleges, and I just want to kind of show that whole spectrum of experiences I've had and how all of them have actually in some way or the other shaped me, significantly, and have really, yeah.
Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
Your slides are not fully screen show. Like I think it's.
Is it better now?
Yes.
Yeah, now it's done. Yeah.
Is it full screen?
Yeah, now it's full screen. Yeah, thank you. And all the girls here are undergrad and postgrad students. So in that transition.
Okay, great. So thank you for letting me know about that technical glitch. So I am primarily trained in natural sciences. I did my chemistry honors from Delhi University, following which I went and did my master's and PhD in biochemistry. At that point, I was still figuring out whether research is a career for me, because at that point, without revealing my age to you, we weren't really exposed a lot to the various options one had in careers in science that as we have today, because of the internet and various resources and organizations, including Vigyan Shala, are making access to what's possible and what is available to you as a science graduate possible. So I was really kind of experimenting my way through life at that point. I really enjoyed science. I particularly enjoyed biology. And so even though I got my undergrad in chemistry, I transitioned into biology and did hardcore molecular biology and biophysics during my PhD. And it was, I have to say, it was a very enjoyable experience. It was obviously one of the best universities in the world. So you can imagine the kind of exposure and learnings I had. While I was doing my PhD, I was also involved in a lot of other activities, non-academic activities, including being the founding editor of a magazine called Phenotype, which was a magazine that was started by Oxford University Biochemical Society that I was part of. And the motivation of starting this magazine was really to, inform each other about the kind of research that was happening at least in the life sciences departments, or the natural sciences departments. And we realized that even though we are next to each other, we didn't really know what was going on in the other labs. And so we thought, maybe this magazine is going to serve as that melting pot of not just ideas, but it will also kind of inform people about the research happening in various labs at least in the life sciences and natural sciences campus. And so that exposure to these kind of activities, and apart from obviously Phenotype, I was involved in various other non-academic activities that helped me develop very critical, I think, people skills, project management skills, time management skills, which are also things that you learn during your PhD and your research training. And so when I finished my PhD, I realized that I wanted to continue research. I really enjoyed being on the bench, and at that point I was still not very clear about whether I want to leave academic research. And so I went on to do my postdoctoral research in this institute called the Scripps Research Institute in Florida in the US, which is actually a private institution funded primarily by philanthropy, or you can say donations by private individuals. And it was not a government-funded institution. So it was a huge departure for me from a big public-funded university to a relatively small private institution that was working on some very cutting-edge research areas, and working in very cutting-edge research areas. And because it was a private institution, a lot of the funding for research that we used to get or we used to raise were from private funders. They were these very wealthy individuals who wanted to support science. The Tata and Ambanis, or even the other very rich people in the US were the ones who would fund this institute. And I found that very interesting as a researcher, that even non-science public is so interested in supporting research and in making research more accessible, making the outputs of research more accessible to the larger public. And they saw value in funding research, which I thought was quite interesting. And so, it was really here when I started exploring the interface between science and society. I realized that it's an interface that is very important to build. That the science needs to connect with society and society needs to connect with science. And it was really at this institute that I got that exposure and that experience also through a lot of various outreach and educational programs that I was part of. And it was here that I came across, when I was finishing my postdoc, I came across this a job advertisement in the science funding organization back in India called the DBT Wellcome Trust India Alliance, where they were looking for someone who could bring science and society together. And they themselves at that point were not very clear about what I would do, but they were very keen that the research that they were funding should be made more accessible. And they were very keen that more non-science public should access the research that this organization was funding. And so I joined this organization not having any background in science communication or public engagement with science. But I got a lot of opportunities. I got a lot of room to experiment and explore this space. And so I set up their communication, portfolio, also their public engagement program, and also spearheaded various skill and capacity building programs in science engagement as well as in partnerships for the organization. And it was a wonderful learning experience. I was there for about 5-6 years, and I left the organization last year. And then I thought that I wanted to do a variety of things. I was at this organization doing very specific activities that the organization wanted me to do. But then now I wanted to explore more. I wanted to learn more. So I decided to work as an independent consultant, where I was not only looking at how what are some ways in which we can make science more accessible to non-science public, but also how do we create an ecosystem or a larger system that could support people like me, that could support ideas like the ones that I had in India. Because the space of science communication and public engagement in India is very, very at a very nascent stage. It's very new. The whole concept of science communication and public engagement as a professional field, as an academic field, is very new in our country. And but having said that, it's definitely a growing area, and I'll talk a little bit about that in
Sarah, we have lost you for a while. I don't know. Is it just me? Anushila, आपको भी नहीं दिख रहा ना?
No. It's her video is stuck and I can't hear her.
Let's wait for her to get back. Anushila, your mic was making a lot of noise, so I muted it.
Yeah. It's been doing that from yesterday.
Our apologies for the technical glitch. We'll wait for Sarah to come back. I think there may have been some power outage or something. That's why we've lost her. Does anybody have any questions? Like, you can ask in the meantime while we wait for Sarah. Anything to do with the program so far? Come on, girls, any questions to us? We are here to answer.
They have all their questions were answered yesterday.
Anushila, should we, do we have Sarah's phone number or she's messaged something?
I'm messaging. I'll message her on LinkedIn. I'm connected. I don't have her phone number.
She's like, looks like I got kicked out. Can you send me the link again?
I'm joining you from Zambia, from Lusaka specifically. It's in Zambia, Southern Africa. I have never been to India. I've never had an opportunity to visit, ironically. And I've been to lots of countries.
Hopefully someday we will be able to invite you in person for sharing the amazing work you are doing.
COVID has, it definitely changed my perspective of saying I'll go. Now I just say I will go because, all of a sudden everything is kind of short and tomorrow you might not be there. Yes, absolutely. I'll make a plan for it.
My apologies. I have no idea what happened. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Gosh. I'm not even sure how much you guys heard. I was happily talking away. Couldn't see anyone.
So you froze for us when you were talking about like how you are in this space where you are independently exploring, this and figuring, and you're transitioning out of DBT and where you were doing outreach for them, but now it is more independent and more diverse kind of things that you're doing.
All right. So should I pick up from there then?
Yes, please.
That's okay. All right. Should I try sharing my PowerPoint again, or will I get kicked out? I don't know.
It should be fine. It's probably one time place. Hopefully.
Okay, can you give me access to?
Yes.
I'm so sorry, everyone.
No worries. I think you are a presenter. You can do it. And I think there was some internet glitch. That's why it happened. Otherwise, we normally don't kick out anybody.
I know. I'm sure. Okay, I'm the presenter now. I should be able to. All right. We have a young participant too. Can you see my screen, everybody?
Not yet, sir.
Okay. You still not see my screen?
No, and also your video froze again.
Oh, okay. So just moving.
Sarah, we can't hear you.
Can you hear
Yeah.
me?
Yes, now we can hear you. We lost you in between.
Okay, let's try this one last time, and then if this doesn't work, maybe Rajina can go.
Do you have Teams on your phone? Would that work? If not, like if this doesn't work, we can try that also.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
No.
Very strange. Now?
Kara, do you want to send us your slides? We can present them for you if that
Yeah,
makes it easier.
Sure, I can do that. I can also present without the slides if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah, that's fine too.
Yeah,
That's also
That won't
fine.
be-
Yeah,
I don't
but we would
waste-
like to see all the nice slides you have made, right? Like
I
that
know, I know.
that makes it more engaging.
I know. This is very unusual. I have really no idea, but I don't use Microsoft Teams that much, so it could be because of that. I'm just sending you my slides, and then I will try again. Let me know if you can see my slides now.
No.
This is really bizarre. Gina, do you want to go perhaps, and while I figure out my I may have to restart my laptop.
Yeah, we can do that too. Maybe Regina can start talking about her presentation, and then we'll come back to Sarah.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. I'm just.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Can
Great.
you get to slideshow, please?
Sure. Okay, so I hope mine doesn't freeze as well. My assumption is this is a bandwidth problem that we seem to all have. I will make another introduction just for the sake of everyone that needs to understand where we're coming from. The name Asikana Network means Young Women's Network. So we have about 74 dialects in my country. And from about 5 or 6 of them, Asikana means the same thing. It means young women. So we started it in it started in 2013, but we officially registered in 2014. It was 2 of my friends and I, and we started it because we basically wanted to have more Chisengas, more Reginas, and more Ellas. We studied computer science and we were always either the youngest in our classes or we were the only girls in our classes. So when we completed, we met randomly at some workshop at a tech hub called Bongo Hive. You might have heard of it. And lo and behold, it was just the three of us, again, like it used to be, studying how to make mobile apps. So this was the first time I was learning how to make Android apps from a volunteer from Canada. So he joked about how we should start an association to help other girls kind of figure out the whole computer thing. And we tried it out for a few months. And then after a few months, we were compelled to legally register the meetings that we used to have with the women because they became so big that they got the government's attention. And I guess they saw that as tax that was running away. So we had to legally register this initiative. And in 2014, October, we launched ASECANA Network. This is not the first logo that we had. Our first logo was made by a student of ours. And when we rebranded 4 years ago, and I'll talk a little bit about that, we had a different logo, also made by one of our students. So as I said, the introduction, it was founded by three young women at the time. We're not so young anymore, but we used to be very young, and we were fresh out of college. We didn't have much experience in working in the nonprofit sector, but we decided to go ahead and just start. And we wanted girls to be properly represented in the tech space in Zambia. So yes, we have women in my country that are studying STEM-related courses, but they're not properly represented. And so we wanted them to be seen in a different light, in a light that we were seen is. So it was us basically getting women together and finding out, are you in tech? Yes. What are you studying in tech? Are you finding it easy to be in tech? Are you able to mentor somebody else who's not in tech yet, a younger person? Are you not in tech? Why aren't you in tech? Do you find computers hard? And we discovered in the first 3 years of running this that the problems went deeper than we had ever imagined because it was a cultural thing. So I'm unsure about how much of culture plays a role in education in India or other countries, but in Zambia, it plays a massive role. I'll even go as far as saying that it is. Was that, oh, I think somebody needs to mute themselves. Yeah, so like I was saying, in my country, culture plays a huge role in the direction your education takes. And so we discovered 3 years into the organization that we were going nowhere because every time that we would come and bring 10 girls together and try to teach them something, it wasn't really working because they would still go back to a toxic home. So 3 years after starting this initiative, we stopped running. Not for a day, not for a month, for a whole year. We were silent, we did nothing because we were trying to re-strategize because we realized that what we were doing was not working. We were first of all focusing on teaching girls programming languages, the high-end stuff, the hardcore stuff. And then we realized 3 years into that, yes?
What?
Was that a question? No? Okay. Yeah, so like I was saying, we realized that we were teaching stuff that was too hard. So we needed to kind of dumb it down. So 3 years into this, we stopped. We just stopped running. For a year, we sat there doing absolutely nothing, re-strategizing and trying to figure out how we could partner with other organizations. And so at the end of that 3 years, in the December of that year, we decided one of us had to quit our full-time jobs because we had each found jobs elsewhere. We had a small meeting, the three of us. We did the, the short straws thing. I do the short straw, so I quit my job. Despite the fact that it was the highest paying job of the three of us, I quit my job, no questions asked, in December and of February of the following year. We started to hit the ground running. So one of the things that we did when we rebranded is we no longer only focused on older women my age or, university. We also started dealing with the kids, these ones, because we realized that in order for us to have more Reginas in college and universities, we need to create more Reginas. We needed to formulate more Reginas. You cannot have more engineers if you haven't made them at the bottom. So it's a lot. It has influenced how our organization runs, because we focus so much on the younger children now, because we want that to kind of be very apparent to the government that we need to change our education system, which we realized has a problem. But out of respect, and I think this is the same in India as well, you cannot tell the government that their curriculum is nonsense. You can, however, offer soft words such as, we can supplement the Zambian ICT curriculum, you know, things like that. We can fund certain programs, and that's what we did, because we didn't want to disrespect the government. So we started focusing on going to primary schools and lower high school, which is the 10th grade in my country. And it went really well, because then we noticed that the girls started to gain a little bit of interest in ICTs, which is very poor. This is a little bit about our challenge and why we found ourselves where we did. In my country, only 27% of girls go on to finish high school. I don't know what that percentage is in India, but that's this is only completing high school, and this has nothing to do with women in tech. So the 27%, as we call them unicorns, because we all know that unicorns are, first of all, they're a myth. And if they existed, they would be a rare sighting, which is what makes the ASICANA Network girls. We are unicorns, we're rare sightings, because not only did we complete high school, we went on to study something that is considered really, really hard for both men and women. And so we decided to tackle the 27% and focus on helping girls understand what computer science was, and even the very basics of computer science. We start teaching from, we get into a classroom, we present a laptop and say, this is a screen, this is a keyboard, this is a mouse, this is a camera. And it sounds very silly to people probably at our stage. But when we got into the schools that we now go into very often, we realized that the girls felt too shy to say, I don't know what that is. So even when you're starting to talk about programming, that's all fine and dandy, but someone doesn't know what a keyboard is. So to take the shame out of all of that, we conduct classes only with the girls. This is strategic that we do this. It's not, we don't do this out of discrimination, but we do this because we notice that the girls open up a bit more when it's just us girls, you know, cookies and cream, pajamas, let's do it. We have slumber parties where there are no men present, no boys present, it's just us girls. And you tell me, what are you finding so hard about the computer? And it's a lot easier for girls to open up when it's just girls amongst themselves. So we started to hold these slumber parties, which we've been doing for over 4 years. We still do them now. It's cookies, it's juice, it's me giving up my house and kind of chasing my husband away for the day or something. And then the girls come to my house and we have a very informal session on, tell me what's going on? Why are you finding computers so hard? So we've been doing that for over 4 years. It's worked really well. Now we even have sponsors for corporate pajama parties. Yeah. So I'll just slide over that and I'll talk a little bit about this. This was at the very beginning when we each had first completed our first degrees in computer science. This is me, long time ago. This is Chisenga and this is Ella. This was the meeting where the Canadian told us, you guys should start something and figure out why your friends don't come to stuff like this, even when it's free. So this was the genesis of ASICANA Network. I hate this photograph, but I always bring it up because I feel like it's a great depiction of where we started from. So I still have to bring it out every once in a while. After that, the picture next to this is a program called Taungana, which is none of my local dialects. It's in Shona and it's a Zimbabwean language. It basically means come together. In 2014, we signed a memorandum of understanding with this organization where we would take 10 girls from Zambia, each of the provinces in my country, and take them to South Africa for what we call a STEM Expo. It's basically seeing STEM applied. So when I try to explain this in a layman's language, I say STEM applied is basically going into the factory and seeing the science, the technology, the engineering, and the math part of the STEM actually being applied. So what they do in South Africa when they go for the STEM Expo, it's 9 days. We go to all of these companies where women are at the helm of practicing these STEM courses. So for example, we go to Nestle, and yes, it's the Nestle that makes chocolate and ice cream. We go to that company, and aside from eating a lot of ice cream and a lot of chocolate, which we have unlimited access to because we go there in good faith, we also get an opportunity to meet all of these women who show you the chemical composition of ice cream and how they create the perfect flavors. It's always very interesting to see a girl's face light up and realize ice cream is not just ice cream. A lot of science goes into this. It's math. The amount of sugar that goes into ice cream, somebody had to come up with that formula. And it's even more of a shock for them to see that a girl came up with that formula and she's telling people what to do. These are girls that we take from rural Zambia. They're never from the urban parts of the country. So they get on a plane for the first time. Some of them get on a bus for the first time. And these are girls that when they walk into these factories are gobsmacked. They see all of these women working in things that they were told back home only boys can do. And it's the very reason that we do the STEM Expo. We've been doing it since 2014. We've had to take a break the last 2 years. Yes, the last 2 years because of COVID, which has stopped us from doing a lot of things, but we hope to get back to it probably August of 2023. I'm not saying COVID is going away. I'm hoping that we can get around it somehow. I don't know. Yes. So moving on, after learning the hard way about how to run an organization and that year of us kind of failing, now we have a team that's full-time in my organization, which is the executive director. That's me. We have a research director. We have a partnerships manager. We have a programs manager. We have a training coordinator, and we have trainers. So the reason we haven't put a name and quantity onto trainers is we have a unique way of running our organization. All of these girls that you see over here are girls that we trained at some point, were our students, and now they are our trainers. So we do this to save costs on us training somebody new and having them into the organization as a permanent member of staff. But we also do this because we want the girls that are coming up to see that it is possible to come from a certain type of background. All of these girls that you see here don't come from fancy backgrounds. They come from very humble backgrounds. Some of them have not even completed their grade 12, but are what I would call kick-ass programmers. They are really good at learning. They just haven't had that opportunity to get a piece of paper that tells them that you have a degree in something. So we have a very unique way of running our organization because of that. Of course, the rest of the members of staff, these are people that have actually gone to school for this stuff. I've actually gone to school for this. I'm actually doing my MBA with the University of Edinburgh, which is very different from computer science. But the reason I decided to do an MBA is because I was thrown into this world of going into meetings where people were asking me, what is your annual budget? How much do you need to survive? And I had no idea what they were talking about. And my answer would always be, ask me a technical question. Ask me to do Python. I can do Python for you. But I could only keep that up for so long. So I had to go back to school. And this time I decided to do something in business so I could understand the business part of running my organization. So it was deliberate that I did an MBA. I hope to be done in December, but God willing, because I foolishly started a different master's. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And this has been my journey so far. I am a mom, and I always like to whip out these pictures because they are realistic of what I go through every day. This is a picture I took of my daughter when she was 9 months old. I used to find myself in a position where I'm attending a meeting like now, and my left or my right hand is somewhere at the back here because I have to take care of my daughter because life moves on. And that's the thing that I like to show to women specifically, that we tend to have to work twice as hard as the men, because while her father would be at work, you know, seemingly a lot easier than me, I would be back home teaching online, or I would be looking after my daughter. I would still be a mom, but life still had to move on. And I get a lot of questions from women saying, how did you manage being a mother and running this whole company, this whole organization? And the answer is, I don't know. I have absolutely no idea, but it has worked somehow. This is a picture of, I like to whip this one out as well, because I say my mother, though she's late, has produced some magnificent engineers. My sisters are also engineers. And it must have had something to do with her cloning process, because this picture here on the right is me, and this is my daughter. We're identical. My sisters also look like this. Their kids look like this. So it must have been a cloning program that my mother had, that she was cloning engineers. My father was also an engineer. Yes. So in 2015, I think our organization kind of turned around and started to get international publicity. This picture here is a picture of me and Queen Elizabeth. In 2015, somebody called me and said, hi, my name is Francis, and I'm calling you from Buckingham Palace. And Her Royal Majesty would like to award you with this. So you've been nominated by someone to get this award. And initially, I thought that it was a prank. So I ignored it, but they followed it up with an email. And lo and behold, I actually was getting an award in June. So I got an award from Buckingham Palace in June of 2015 for the amount of work that we had contributed to women in ICTs in my country. It was all the way in the UK. It wasn't my first time flying, but it was definitely my first time at a palace. So it's one of those things that I etched in my memory that are very humbling, and I like to share that journey with a lot of people. Following that, I was also hired to join the Queen's Commonwealth Trust as an advisory board member up until the award actually ended, which was in 2018. It was a very interesting journey to work for a different set of employers for the very first time. It's something very new for me. Came back here, and a year after I came back, I got another call from someone who claimed that they were from Facebook, now Meta. And they said, hi, we're in the country. We're staying at this hotel. If you have 20 minutes to meet with us, we would like to propose something to you. So I figured, why not? I went to this hotel, and they were waiting for me. There was a panel of people waiting there. And they said, could you possibly present ASICANA Network to us? I had gone with no material, only the stuff in my head, but I presented what was in my head because it's my baby, so I can present it very well. And in 25 minutes, I saw, he's not in the picture because he left Meta, but he said, we would like to offer you X amount of money every single year, infinity, as long as you need it, to run a digital literacy program for and on behalf of Facebook. And I remember sitting there thinking, just like that? And he said, yeah, just like that. So we'll send you a contract if you like the amounts, if you'd like to adjust the amounts, just tell us what you need and we'll make it happen. And that was June of 2019. September, funds were sent to our account. And that began the journey of what we call eZivo. It's another language in my country, which means knowledge. Zivo means knowledge in Lozi. And the Meta has been funding us from 2019, and they will continue to fund us for as long as we are relevant. We like to say that we're still relevant. So that catapulted my organization to fame in a way, because all of a sudden everybody wanted to work with us because Facebook wanted to work with us. And I started to give a lot of talks about where I started from and how we got there. And one of the talks that I gave in Rwanda got the attention of Huawei Technologies, who are now our partners as well. And they said, we have no idea what Meta is paying you, but we would like to probably match it or give you more money so you can take more girls to school. And another surreal moment happened in February of 2022, where we had these large organizations and big companies that came to us and said, we think what you're doing is so great that we would like to make the journey a little bit easier for you and offer you this amount of money to take more girls to school. And so, yeah, this is how the journey has been so far. I'll talk a little bit about our business structure. There's a reason why I will. But as of, I think, I'm unsure about the specific numbers down to the actual numbers, but as of July 2022, from September of 2019, we have taught 27,000 girls countrywide, which I'm told is very impressive. I suffer from a mild version of imposter syndrome. So every time one of my staff members tells me, you know, we've taught over 20,000 girls, I'm always like, that number doesn't sound correct. There must be like an extra zero or something, you know. But apparently, yes, we have taught over 27,000 girls from September of 2019 up until last month, July. Last time I looked at the numbers. So it's been a very interesting way of talking about our journeys as the founders. And I'll talk about the founders on the very last slide, because it's a running joke that we are never in the same continent. We're not in the same continent even now. Our business structure, we are a nonprofit, but we're a company limited by guarantee. We had to create a business component to this very fun idea that we had, because we couldn't also just keep getting these millions of kwacha without paying tax, first of all. Very important lesson that I learned the hard way, that we need to pay tax even if you're a nonprofit. Yeah, so we restructured and kind of created a formal ASICANA network that has a board. We answer to a board. We have a functional board now. We pay taxes. We pay a certain type of tax. I don't know how it is in other countries, but there's a certain type of tax that we do not pay because we're a nonprofit, but everything else we must pay. We pay national health insurance. We pay the pensions. That one doesn't matter. We still pay that. It's the business structure of it, and our budgets are made at least 12 months in advance. I do a short lesson for women who are interested in starting a mini ASICANA network, because I want them to learn the mistakes that we made much earlier than we did. You shouldn't have the tax people coming up to your door and telling you that you owe $20,000. You can just learn from us. We made the mistakes. No need for you to go through that. Now we have competitors, and I never thought that I would say this, but we do have competitors, direct and indirect. These are hubs. These are basically other tech hubs and organizations that see us as a threat. Government is an indirect competition, because we're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. But I feel like this is a problem with all countries. So, you know, they're an indirect competitor. That's fine. I'll skip the pestle thing, the pestle analysis, and I'll go to the last slide. This is the first picture that my co-founders and I took together, and this is our latest picture. We don't get to take these pictures very often, because Chisenga in the middle here, she's the shortest. She's doing her PhD at Sheffield University in the UK. And Ella recently started working for World Food Programme, so she's never really in the country as well. We have a running joke about how the three founders of ASICANA Network don't have a recent photo because we're never in the same continent. So I'm in Africa right now, but when Chisenga was in Africa, I was in the United Kingdom. So we're hoping to have an opportunity one day to take a picture, the three of us, because we're the unicorns that kind of don't exist apparently, because we can't prove that we're the founders. We never take a picture together. But maybe this year we'll run away from our work and find a spot somewhere and take a selfie or something like that. Yes, so I made it very brief because I teach 7-year-olds every day and their attention span is like 15 minutes. So you need to make an impression in 15 minutes. But if there are any questions up until this point, if I'm allowed to take the questions, then I'm more than happy to take some questions.
Thank you, Regina, for this inspiring talk and sharing your journey with us. We will take question after Sarah's presentation. We'll take questions for both of you at the same time, if that's okay with you.
Okay. Sure.
Thank you so much. Sarah, would you like to try sharing?
Yeah, if you can make me the presenter, I can. And wish me luck, everyone. We will do it, especially after Regina's talk and all that talk about computer science. I'm feeling even a bigger idiot. Can't even operate a Microsoft Teams. Okay. Can you confirm if you can see my full screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, yay. Okay.
Good luck, Sarah. And I'm sure you're going to be great.
Thank you so much, and I apologies again, everybody, and thank you for bearing with me while I have to say I'm so blown away by Regina's talk and all the work that she's done, and her meeting with the Queen. I'm really bowled over. So yeah, so can you just confirm if you can still see and hear see my slide and hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, we can see it.
All right, so I kind of stopped at the point where I mentioned that I am now working as an independent consultant, really trying to look at more system level interventions on promoting public's engagement with science and of taking science to the larger public. And this is really because I feel that, you know, we need to have more robust and more robust systems in place and structures in place to enable public's engagement with science. And so that's why I'm really keen in this, in exploring this area and see what I can do to make more science, to make science more accessible to people, to make public more engaged in science. And so I'm just going to quickly take you through some of those things in my presentation. And so I just wanted to, share a couple of pointers here. A lot of people have asked me, said, you spend so much time in academic research and now you've transitioned out of it, and is that a waste of your time and all the skills that you learned? And I have to say, and I'm not saying this to justify my move into non-academic careers, I have to say that these are skills that you will gain if you pursue research wholeheartedly and if you're trained in science in any shape or form. And these are skills that you have to recognize, though, and you have to make sure that these are not just things that you pick up just like that, but just you have to focus very, very strongly on building these skills and nurturing them. So, of course, the most important skill that I learned, from my training in research was to do research, to carry out research, and who better, and these kind of and this research skill is something that you can apply to any sector, any problem, any context, and so this is actually one of the most powerful tool in your kit, in your skill set that you should be proud of if you are a researcher and if you have got any kind of exposure to research. I think in problem solving, I think that's the basis of research is to identify a problem or a question and try to solve that. And I think that is something that really excites me, even in the kind of context I work in now, where the problem doesn't always have to be scientific. or is very specific to a lab, but it could be a societal problem. It could be a problem related to a system. It could be a problem related to very poor governance systems, like some of which Regina also mentioned. So it could be problems can come in various shapes and form, but I think the mindset and the skill set you need to solve that problem is very important, and that's something that I felt I developed and I gained that mindset during my research training. Critical thinking, of course, is the foundation of research. And scientific inquiry, and so that's of course something that we carry as researchers till the very end. It gets embedded in our DNA. Project management, a very underrated and a very underappreciated skill is project management. Without knowing, I was managing projects in the lab, I was managing people in the lab, and so there's a lot of very kind of these are skills that are not specific to carrying out research, but they are essential for carrying out research. So project management, collaboration, of course, research, in research, you collaborate with multiple people and labs, not just in your country, but even sometimes, across the globe, so that, that ability to collaborate and work in teams is very, very essential, and something I, gained during my research training. Communication, I think this is something, again, not very appreciated in our country, is, the need for communicating your research, the need for communicating science. And it also helps you when you communicate something, it also helps you clarify that idea, clarify that research even better, even more. And so it's very important that you actively engage in communicating your science or your research if you end up pursuing that, and you get a variety of opportunities to do that through at conferences, at workshops, and other platforms. Also, when I was in my postdoc, and I would say when I was a senior PhD student, I also got a chance to mentor and guide a lot of students and interns, and that's really that's the starting point, and also the time you start realizing that you are not always going to be a solo player. You have to take people along with you, and you have to train people who come after you, who are much lower in their journey, lower in the sense of much behind you in their journeys, and so you have to mentor and guide them. And so that was also a very important skill that I felt I gained during, and of course accountability. Research without accountability stands no ground, and so as researchers, we are expected to be accountable to our funders, to the people, to the society at large. And finally, I would say adaptability, because the research really hardens you. I mean, I think I must have seen more failed experiments in my research training than actually experiments that worked and gave rise to a paper. And so you really develop a thick skin for failures, and also this ability to quickly shift gears if something is not working or you've hit a roadblock. And also because research today is a highly dynamic space. There's constantly new knowledge being added, and new directions are being added to different fields, and so you have to adapt to changing research ecosystem and research, your research field. So adaptability was also something that I kind of learned, and not taking failures to heart, when some experiment failed. So these are some of the skills. I wouldn't say this is a comprehensive list of skills, but definitely some of the skills I recognized and I felt really helped me in my journey after my research training and my research experience. And I firmly believe that any of these skills or other skills that you will gain are only going to be as good as you want them to be. So you have to be conscious about the kind of skills you want to build, and how you will go about nurturing them or building them. Anyway, so these just wanted to kind of give you a little glimpse into what I carried with me when I moved into the field of science communication, which at that point was a very kind of poorly defined, poorly understood field in India. And I'm talking about almost 6-7 years ago. And over the years, I've met a lot of people from across the country, across the world and across the country, who have really helped me understand the field better. A lot of my experience of engaging with various audiences, various publics has helped me understand what science communication and public engagement with science really means. But this particular figure that I'm going to show you is actually something that summarizes all of that really wonderfully. Is that science really is science involves research, it involves generating evidence, it involves experts, it needs institutions, and it's really based on facts, right? I mean, that's all we care about in science is whether something is factual or not. Whereas communication is really around values, the values that you're trying to convey, the values that the receiver is gaining, how you interpret messages, the kind of filters you apply, the kind of emotions that you apply to your messages, and also the kind of feelings your communication elicits. And it's really, science communication is really like a marriage between facts and feelings. And that's why it is so hard, because these are two very different worlds and very different kind of cognitive needs, very different kind of cognitive areas. And so that's why the field is so complex yet so exciting. And if you're interested in science communication, if this is something that you've come across a lot, you will see that now there are a lot of different terms that are used for science communication. And I would suggest that don't get bogged down or don't get confused by all of this. That's why I've put up a table here which kind of delineates what is what. But what really distinguishes any of this is the purpose of undertaking science communication. Why do you want to communicate what you want to communicate is really what will determine the outcome of your communication and the impact of your communication. So before we start thinking about science communication, that I want to become a science communicator or a public engagement practitioner, you have to ask why. What problems are you trying to address, or what gaps are you trying to address? And these are some of the things. I'm very quickly going to run through it because I think we don't have much time also. Of course, the most important reason you want to communicate science is to increase awareness of science and research to the society. A lot of I have seen that when I was a postdoc, even when I was a PhD student, there are a lot of people outside of the labs or outside of these research institutions have absolutely no idea what we're doing there. And in fact, even our families, my parents or my extended family or friends who are not from science would often wonder, what is that I spend all my time doing, and why is that even important? So it's important to really raise awareness and tell people about why what you're doing, or why science in general is important for society. It's also to promote critical thinking. I think what science is losing out on, like what science teaching is losing out on, is the ability to inculcate critical thinking, because it's that ability to think critically is what you use in research and in pursuing the scientific question. And so that's extremely critical, why you have to, a very important reason for why you would want to communicate science or share science or engage with people about science. And also to reduce my scientific misinformation. I guess that's a big objective these days of most science communication efforts, because of the internet. There's a lot of fake news, a lot of scientific misinformation that's circulating, and we saw a lot of that during COVID as well. And so you need to have very robust and very proactive science communication channels and people doing science communication to address this. And interestingly enough, I don't know if you are aware of this. Constitution of India is perhaps the only constitution I think which actually mentions that the citizen of this country is, it's their duty to develop scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform, which is, I think, quite incredible that it's enshrined in our constitution that understanding and engaging with science is a fundamental duty of the citizen. So, and Government of India has also signed up for various other global treaties that again points to the importance and the need for making science more accessible so that it can benefit society. Some other reasons that I will list out here is, of course, to build political and public trust in science and scientists. During COVID also, we saw that because there were so many conflicting scientific information, people were like, oh, we don't want to believe in science or scientists. They say something today and then they, change their stand tomorrow. So, we have to also address this constant tussle between, what's out there and how science is constantly changing, or the research information is constantly changing. Also, science should inform policies. Policies should not be, based on people's opinions or their whims and fancies, but it should be on strong evidence. And that's what research and, results in is evidence. And that's the evidence you would like to use to develop policies, particularly those that impact human and planetary health and well-being. And of course, through dialogue, you could, a researcher also gains new perspectives on research that, maybe this is a question I should be addressing because people, the public wants a solution to this problem. And there are various other ethical considerations that researchers a lot of times are unaware of or don't pay attention to. And these dialogue with public, this communication with the public can also result in bringing those ethical problems out into the open and into for a scientist to learn about those, and also to do research that will actually have some benefits for people. What is that? What are the problems that research should be solving? So science communication and public engagement again is very important for that. And something that again Regina touched upon is to inspire next generation of researchers. When you leave, if you're a researcher, and when you retire, who's going to take your space? Who's going to continue your inquiry? Who's going to continue doing research? So it also plays a very important role in inspiring next generation of researchers. And if none of these things really bother you, then as a scientist or an organization that's funded by government funds, which in India, more than 80% of the research that happens in India is funded by government money, which is actually taxpayers' money, then you are accountable to the people who are paying for your research, and they also get the right to shape the research agenda and have a say on how discoveries are used. So these are some of the objectives of science communication and public engagement, and of course there could be many others as well. And these are some of the people who are the ones who carry out science communication and public engagement. Either they carry out or they support or they enable communication of science and public's engagement with science. And these are some of the format, depending on what is that you want to achieve through science communication. What is your objective? What is your purpose? Then these are some of the formats that you can use to take science to the public or to engage public in a dialogue on science. And something that you have to understand, as a science communicator or a scientist, is that people are not some empty jars that you can just fill up with a lot of, scientific, good, interesting scientific facts or information. You have to consider the kind of background they come from, the kind of ideas, and perhaps some pre-existing knowledge and information they have, the kind of language they would like to understand science in, so these are some of the things that you have to, and their social cultural context, are very important, because these are the factors that will shape the way we receive information and that we make sense of information. So as if you are a communicator, you have to bear in mind that people are not just waiting there to hear from you. They have better things to do. So how you have to make sure that you have a compelling message to share, and you have a important enough message and idea that that people would want to take interest in. And one of the major problems with, when scientists communicate science is that we spend a lot of time, giving a long background about why we are doing this research, why is this important, whereas the public just wants to know the bottom line. What have you found out? Why is that important? And then, so the style in which you communicate to non-science publics is very important if you want to get their attention, and if you want to get their, want them to pay attention to what you have to say. And I think that would hold true for any any communication from any field, any sector, is that you have to understand how your audience would like to receive your message. And so it's not necessary that you have to dumb down your science. You have to just use appropriate language and style to make it accessible for your audience. And so like I mentioned earlier, the field of science communication and public engagement is really growing, not just across the world and not just in, countries like UK, US, and European countries, but also in India. And the interesting part about these fields is that you can have any background and you can still be in science communication, public engagement, with the strong condition that you should have interest in science and you should have scientific knowledge, some basic scientific knowledge. And with that caveat, anyone at any stage of their life or career can actually get into this field and do remarkably well. And I have so many examples of that, in my own network, which of course spans across, different countries. And another very interesting and important development that has taken place that shows the Government of India's interest in science communication and public engagement is the recent science policy that has been developed. And also recently in May, the government also released the scientific social responsibility guidelines that institutions and scientists will have to pay more attention to, which really required them to make science more accessible and engaging to the larger public, and to really partner with the various public actors to do research. So these are very, very encouraging developments, and let's see, how they shape up and what kind of opportunities they produce in the times to come. And these are some examples of the kind of careers you could have if you have interest in science communication and public engagement. This field is really vast, and a lot can come under this. Under these fields, but largely they are divided into public engagement, outreach, research, and science communication. And this, I would say, holds true for India. If you obviously go to a different country, this might look different. So if you have interest in journalism, then that's an interesting career route you could take up. You could be a communications manager at a scientific institution. You could also be a researcher in science communication if you want to, pursue research but outside of lab. Studying the communication of science and how public perceives science, then science communication researcher is also a very, very interesting possibility. And these are your typical employers, who would hire you if you're a science communicator. It's universities and scientific organizations, various government institutions, not-for-profit NGOs, science museums, centers, various industries, science and technology industries, publishing, media. And very quickly, I just wanted to kind of give you a snapshot of all that I have done so far, and my kind of experience and expertise kind of spans across these areas. I have dabbled a lot in participatory arts-based projects, and I'm happy to talk more about that in the Q&A. How do you use more participatory techniques to have a dialogue about science and health issues? So I've used a lot of those projects. I've also conducted a lot of science communication workshops across the country for PhD students, master's students, and also early career scientists to just kind of sensitize them about the nuts and bolts of science communication and why it's important in their career. I've also designed a lot of programs to engage young people on science, and I've also anchored and developed various public engagement funding programs through which I have supported very interesting, exciting projects that bring science and society together, and also developed a variety of partnerships to bring these ideas and these projects to life. I've also dabbled a little bit on in research and policy in science communication, and which is something that I also find interesting. But I have to say that being on the field, talking to people, engaging with them definitely excites me a lot more. And this is the project that I was mentioned earlier. Is a Superheroes Against Super project. Is a public engagement project that I started with a couple of my colleagues in 2018. And the whole idea of this project is to not only share scientific knowledge about drug-resistant infections, which are on the rise in the country and also globally, but also partner with them to take this message to the larger society. And so this project again has been a huge learning experience for me personally, and it has really opened up a lot of new ideas and directions for taking science to different audiences, and also engaging with them on very complex scientific themes. And so I'm just going to leave you with a couple of ideas on how, if you are interested in science communication, what you could do if you're already a student, if you're already a science student and you get opportunities to give talks and present posters, then try to make them more accessible and engaging. And that's what I did when I was doing my master's and my PhD, is that I used to spend a lot of time making my talks and posters more accessible, not just to people in my field, but in other fields as well. If you are based at an institution that already does a lot of science communication and public engagement work, then I would suggest getting involved in that. You could also start, social media is a great platform. You could use that to take science to non-science audiences. There are also today, I see a lot of training courses online and offline that you could look into. There are look up examples. There's plenty of information on this, on science communication on the internet. So I would say, look up examples, see which ones really intrigue you, get your attention, and incorporate the features and practices that those projects or those ideas have used in the kind of work that you want to do. Talk to people who are already in the field, really try to understand the field properly, because you don't just want to get a job, but you want to build a career out of that. So to really get an in-depth knowledge of that field, try to, if you see there are some critical gaps in your skill set, then try to look up, internship opportunities, volunteer work, and other opportunities to just, fill those gaps in your skill sets. A lot of these positions are not widely accessible and widely advertised. So, the networking that you do will really help you. So definitely keep that high on your list of things to do. Tailor your CV. So when you're applying for jobs like these, when you're applying for a science communication role, make sure that you are trying to tailor it such that the person reading your CV will think you are suitable for it. So if you have a very highly academic CV and you're applying for a science communication job, then try to bring out your science communication experience more prominently in that CV, so that it's immediately clear. Your experience and expertise is immediately cleared. You can also create a professional identity if you're not already on LinkedIn or other professional networks. I suggest you do that so that people can find you and engage with you. And if you want to learn more about the field, I would suggest, there's a Journal of Science Communication, which has a lot of free articles and free research articles on science communication that you can go through. Nature Springer, American AAAS is another very, very useful website you can look at. These are some of the websites you can look at if you're looking for science communication jobs. And these are some of the, I would say, resources that you could look into, and maybe Darshana and Anushila can share these with you if you're interested by email later on. And I would just say that, leave you with a couple of food for thought, a couple of ideas that I hope you will perhaps carry with you after this talk, is that, communication, the biggest learning for me is that communication is not about you, it's about your audience. And I think every time we prepare a talk or we go and talk to somebody, we're only thinking about what is that we want to say, but we rarely think about what is that, your audience or your receiver may want to hear or learn. So you have, the first and the last reason why you're communicating anything is for your audience, is because there is an audience. And so you have to really be mindful of your audience and understand them well. And this again cuts through, any context. It doesn't have to be science communication. It could be any kind of communication, really. Another very important thought that I keep reminding myself and scientists that I engage with, that it's only when scientists communicate effectively, if they communicate their science and research effectively, is when people will actually appreciate and value that science brings to society, and that is when they will want to support science. And so that's a very important reason why scientists and science communicators have to take science to the non-science public. And I think what I've also realized is that irrespective of which field or career you want to pursue, communicating your thoughts and ideas effectively is indispensable. You have to learn how to communicate effectively. So even if you don't want to become a science communicator, you may want to continue in research, or you may want to move into say a finance job or any other kind of job. You want to become a computer scientist, but you should be able to communicate your thoughts and ideas effectively, because whether you like it or not, communication is part of your job. It is part of your life, and so why not get better at it? And so I would just leave you with this thought of communicate to engage, inspire, empower, and most importantly to learn from others. And these are my coordinates in case any of you would like to get in touch with me. I'll be happy to tell you more about what I have learned over the years, and of course I would love to hear your experiences and your aspirations as well. So that's all from my side. Thank you for listening so patiently, and happy to take questions now.
Thank you, Sarah, for that very inspiring journey across scientific research as well as science communication. And I'm really excited that both of you shared such incredible journeys in science, and I'm confident that the girls sitting here today are, have lots of questions. So girls, please raise your hands. And what you just said about communication, Sarah, I completely agree to that. And that's why, one very specific module in our mentoring program is around various communications and how we can, learn various principles about communication, and how, giving them the first step into science communication as well. So very, very, very grateful for you for touching upon that. And thank you, Regina, for showing how you've built an amazing movement for inspiring young women in your country. And of course, I'm sure it is ready to go to other parts of, Southern and Western and Eastern Africa, and also looking for some exciting collaborations here. I understand that we've already run over time. So if it is okay with both of you, can we take about 15 minutes for Q&A? Because I don't know, I understand it's dinner time in India, and it's almost an evening tea time in Zambia. So I just wanted to be sure that you both are okay. So are you okay with that, Regina? I see a nod from Sarah already.
Yes, of course.
Great, cool. So thank you. So girls, please raise your hands, whatever questions you have. Please unmute yourself and ask questions. Come on, girls, no questions? Okay, I see your hand raised. Aisha, please unmute yourself.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I wanted to first say that Sarah, what you're doing, I really appreciate it, because my interest in science is mainly focused, but came because of science communicators. So my interest in science was actually sparked by them. So I really like what you're doing and researching further on it. I just want to ask about when I read academic writings, they are often not in the style. Written in a style that is more better to understand or easy to understand.
Yes.
So do you think we should try to change the academic writing style, or should it be accompanied with a summary or something like that is more easy to understand and more relatable for the public?
Yeah, I mean, that's first of all a fantastic question, Aisha, and something that we keep talking about also is, that why is academic writing becoming so technical and so incomprehensible that you have to have a simplified version of it, to go with it. So, so I think you're right. I don't. It's difficult to say whether academic writing is going to become simpler. I think that's a call that journals will have to take, and I think it has to be a slightly wider kind of discourse that, why is academic communication becoming so technical and so difficult to understand, which wasn't the case. If you look at academic papers from like 50, 100 years ago, they were really easy to understand. Even Darwin's paper, Charles Darwin, the kind of paper, the kind of research he did and the way he made it accessible to people was so simple. And so, why are we becoming more and more technical? I think one of the kind of mindset researchers and scientists have is that, the harder you the more complicated words you use, the better your writing is. And that's also a mentality that we carry in India is, you have for you to be considered a good writer, you have to use very, very complicated and very flowery words. And I think that mindset is what's becoming very problematic. And of course, I think it's also a reflection that academic fields are also becoming more and more siloed and more specialized, because of which people are only aware of their own technical jargon or technical terms and jargons, and they're only communicating to people in their own fields and not to other fields. So it's actually a combination of a lot of issues. And I think hopefully, if there are more conversations like these and more questions like yours, I hope that academic communication is going to become easier and simpler to understand. But what a lot of journals have started doing, which you also rightly pointed out, is put out a lay summary of the papers. And even scientific institutions and universities have started to do that as soon as a paper is published, they release a very simple lay summary on their website, on their institutional website. And those summaries are what catches the attention of, say, media or other people who are interested in their work. And so that's really the kind of mechanism the academic world is using. But your point is very well taken, Aisha, and I hope we can change that in the times to come.
You mentioned about that how it is like getting specialized, and maybe it is like important or a required thing for that. And the summary thing, I totally appreciated when journals provide it. But something I really wonder is that why do like, for example, Hank Green has like published a lot of like, he is involved in science communication and he publishes novels, non-fiction novels that are so easy to read and really engaging.
Yeah.
But when you read published papers, even if he publishes some papers, they're so technical and they are so incomprehensible, even for my seniors. So I don't understand, like, where does the thinking come from that making things incomprehensible would help, like, propagate the teachings? Or
like, I completely agree with you, Aisha, and I think this is a big problem in the academic field. In academia, sorry. And I think, there's no easy answer to that right now, except that maybe journals and scientific institutions should start calling this out, and researchers should start calling this out, this very incomprehensible articles out. But this mindset is something it's deeply embedded. So let's see, how that changes over time. But in the meantime, these are some of the ways in which we are trying to overcome these, the gap between our academic paper and making it accessible to larger audiences.
Thank you, Sarah, for that answer, and thank you, Aisha, for your question. Does anybody else have a question? Please raise your hand and unmute your mic. Okay. I don't see any other question. So I have a question for Regina.
Hello.
So, yes. Who is this?
Ma'am, this is me, Riha.
Riha. Okay. I couldn't see your hand raised, so that's why I was a bit confused. Okay, go ahead. Riha. Yeah.
So, ma'am, I don't have any doubt, but I want to just thank them. They were so inspiring. Their journey was I was so much overwhelmed. Especially talking to Regina right now, I am feeling she's the most incredible person I have ever met in my life. Right now, I am pursuing my. It's no, I'm not joking. Really, I'm feeling like that you are most incredible person. Right, I am pursuing my undergrad in computer science, and hearing from you that the people in your girls, they don't even have that knowledge of what is keyboard, and that was so overwhelming for me. And it is so brave of you to start such a journey and movement, and that's so inspiring. I won't I'm feeling to say thank you from them to you. I I don't have words right now. It's so inspiring.
Thank you, Riha.
So how do you pronounce that? Ria?
Ria, yeah.
Riha, yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Ria. So I always like to tell, especially young girls, you really need to appreciate what you have, because you have no idea what your neighbor doesn't have. So we always get these narcissistic and very inconsiderate comments from men about, oh, but what's so special about that? But listen, if I belong to 27% of girls who of a country where we're 17 million people and only 27% of that population completes high school, I am a unicorn. So for me to have completed high school, I'm very honest about this. I don't like to lie about this. I do not represent what the majority of women my age look like in my country. I do not. I was raised by engineer parents. My mother, in fact, was the first registered female architect in government, and she got several awards for that. So I was already raised in an environment of my mother always telling me to work hard, work hard. You being a girl makes absolutely no difference, because when you get to a certain age, you will find life very difficult for you simply because you sat back and said, oh, because I'm a girl, I can't do this. My mother never, I didn't have it easy with my mother. She whipped us really, really hard, and now I appreciate it. I wish I could thank her, but she passed away very early. But now I can thank her for whipping us really, really hard. So if you have been thinking about quitting that degree, or thinking, oh, I can just do a marketing course or something like that, it's something a little bit easier, please don't, because you have all of these girls from this country that are looking up to you when you don't even know it. So please just keep on with that and do more stuff. Please don't stop going to school. I always tell people this. In my early 30s, I'm still going to school, so please don't stop going to school.
Sure.
Thank you, Regina, for those words, and very inspiring to hear of your mother. And sorry that you lost her early on, but you've carried her vision with your journey, and you are imbibing that spirit in thousands of girls across Zambia and the rest of the world now through your presence here in India. And if you look at the statistics in India, they are no different. Like, we have only 27.3% women gross enrollment ratio at the university. So, and out of which, we may have achieved sort of a parity in terms of undergraduate enrollments of men versus women in STEM. We are around at 45%, but then it's a waterfall after that. We have less than 14% women in the technical and scientific workforce. In entry-level jobs in computers and IT, because of the IT revolution, you are seeing a lot more women, but after a few years of career, they are also dropping. And unfortunately, we do not have large-scale national database across sectors for participation of women in STEM labor force. However, the labor force participation of women in India has been on a decline since 2012, and we are in desperate need for increasing that labor force participation, because we have a whole generation of young women who entered the workforce and are at that stage where they are becoming first-timer moms and getting married and all. And I think those and not having an ecosystem to nurture them is making them fall through it. So, but I wouldn't claim anything big because I don't have the statistics to back them. But this is very true that despite having a very good enrollment of girls in terms of distribution of girls who've been able to match, who's been able to reach the university, but they are still a bit further away from the workforce. And we are trying really hard. And I think hearing journeys like yours and Sarah's, where you've spanned different disciplines, right? You are a computer science engineer and you are now an entrepreneur and a social entrepreneur who's been recognized all across the globe and making a difference, bringing a fresh thinking of how a woman can not just be a computer science engineer, but can set up our business, which can have the potential of impacting and creating many more unicorns out of your kitty, right? So who knows, maybe one of your girls will be a IT businesswoman in your country and will impact many more girls through that, right? So I think those things are very, very incredible. And similarly, Sarah, from being a scientist to bringing and making science more accessible for the public is, I think, incredible journeys in science. And I'm sure the girls sitting here today are feeling very, very inspired. And personally, I was as I was listening to Regina and how this whole thing about you going into an MBA and looking at, what's business plan and all, I have been through that in the last 3 years, and it's been incredibly difficult. And to hear you personally, I felt very inspired, and I was getting a lot of hope that what we are doing will also catch up scale and will also bring sustainability both at the organizational level as well as the programmatic level. So thank you for giving me personally that hope. Without going into much, at my end, I'll let our next student speak. I think it's Jyoti. Is that you? Jyoti, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I really wanted to thank you both, ma'am, because you are really inspiring when we are speaking. And my question is to the Regina, ma'am. Ma'am, here's the thing. I have a younger sister at my home, and they are really scared of science, like crazy scared. They didn't even want to try it. So I want them to at least step into the science and experiences after they can decide. So how should I convince them to give it a try, not to be scared? I'm really don't want to force them into it, but I also didn't want to take a step away from it. So what should I do?
Thank you. So how do you pronounce your name? Jyoti? I think it's okay. Yes, first of all, my advice is absolutely scare them, because I feel like this is what I always tell people. I feel like we in computer science are not respected because most of the times in schools and in workplaces, we're put in the basement because nobody finds us as a threat. You should absolutely find us as a threat. I have some training in ethical hacking, and let me tell you, the stuff that I can dig up on people, you should be scared. So first of all, you should absolutely scare your sisters into getting into this thing, because look, there's no job in the 21st century that you can get that does not include a computer. Absolutely nothing. If you're a teacher, you need to know how to use a computer. There's absolutely no job that you can think of that a computer is not going to help you do. So you do definitely need to scare them into this. And secondly, something that we do, which is what I've found the easiest way to teach my 7-year-olds and my 8-year-olds is you need to make science fun. Everybody thinks of science as it's this boring topic. They only talk about the programming languages that everybody talks about, even the old ones. The programming languages evolve every year. Every year there's a new one coming up. We don't do COBOL. Even I didn't do COBOL. Some language called COBOL. I think these are people who are my parents' age who did it. We have fun ways to do things. You can start first of all with something called Scratch, spelled like scratch, when it's itching. It's called Scratch programming, and I have a 5-year-old and my kid can program. That's how easy it is. So you start by making stuff fun for them. because you need to make things as comfortable as they must be comfortable. I'll give you an example. There's a new game, and what I'll do actually is I will compile all of these resources and then send an email, and then it can be sent to all of you guys, which is what I use to teach my kids. There are several platforms that use makeup to teach, programming. You need to use stuff that children already know. You can't just throw something new at a person. Even an adult, I will tell you, they're not going to take. But you need to find ways to make it fun. Like I said about the Taungana program, where we see STEM applied, we take them to places like Nestle. And after they've had their ice cream, you tell them, did you know that there's a chemical composition to making ice cream? There's a chemical composition to making chocolate. So you need to give them a reason to get into computer science or anything science related. You make it fun for them, because right now you're just telling them you need to do computer science. They don't really understand why. So make it fun for them. There's lots of, I don't know what your sisters are interested in right now. I don't know what girls are interested in right now. My 5-year-old is interested in PlayStation. She's on her PlayStation absolutely all the time. So if we want to make her do something, we always say, we'll get you a new game. Can you clean up your toys or something? And look, it works. So you need to find what works for your sisters, eh? Like what's fun for them? Do they like shoes? I was gonna say, do they like boys? But they really shouldn't, because at that age. But find something that they like. They really should have something that they like. Do they like food? Do they like to cook? There's chemical compositions in food as well. You can be I think, Sarah, you would probably know about stuff like this. What are these people called? The ones that, the food nutritionists or something. It's like the people that study food, they have a term. I just can't remember what they're called. The people that study stuff that's found in food, that's also science, those guys. I am a typical IT person. I'm the basement person, so I don't know anything about everybody else. I'm a typical basement person. So I hope that helps. Find something that they like, and use that to show them how it can be incorporated into science, whether it's computer science or biochemistry or whatever it is. Just make it fun for them. There's lots of resources, and I'll put them down for you. I'll have them send you an email. They're really fun. Anyone can learn, even people without a technical background. Super easy to learn.
Wonderful. Thank you, Regina. And Sarah, do you want to comment on this, like from the Indian context?
Sure. Yeah, I did want to, because, Jyoti, the first time I, came in contact with research was when I went to this institute called the Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology in Hyderabad. I was in school and they took us there it was an open day. And I cannot tell you just how fascinated I was to see everything in that institute, from like these small little zebra fishes that they were working on. I said, how can they can study fishes? And they were like, yes, we use fishes for experiments. And to, going to the lab and seeing cells under the microscope so it really, I already liked science, but it really took it to another level. And so I think by helping them see science and research where it's happening, taking them there, or taking them, like Regina very nicely put, to, fun events, fun science events that are happening around you. If you come across any, drag them around and say that, hey, we're going for aaj yahan chalte hai, ye maze karke aate hain yahan. So something, just make it sound fun and not like, you are, because I completely understand their hesitation. I have so many of my family and friends who just keep telling me, is like, how have you continued in science? Science is so difficult. Science is so dry and boring. And I don't blame them, because that's really how science is taught in most places and, most educational institutions. So I don't blame them either. But these are some of the ways you could kind of give them a soft entry into, the world of science. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah, for that comment. I just wanted to add something to that as well. So this is my experience of slowly introducing my young niece to science. She's in class 9th right now. And the way I got her interested and hooked up into science was sharing stories of women. So there are very nice ebooks on Indian women scientists as well as global women scientists. And also not telling them you are introducing, I mean, you scare them, as Regina said, okay, it's difficult and everything, but at the same time, you also show them how interesting it is, right? So the other day I was talking to my niece about, see, every seed is so small and every seed knows that what kind of tree it is going to become, how its branches will look, how its bark will look, and all of that information is stored in a small seed, right? So just giving these open questions and hearing where their imagination goes, I think is also another very cool way of introducing them to the fun side of science, right? You know, of course, you can do experiments and everything, but like just imagine when we are sitting, our body is pumping liters of blood every second, right? So, and all the things that are happening, how a cell knows that it has to become a skin, a cell knows it has to become a, you know, nose or eye or any like other part of the body. And these things are very, very interesting. So just unleash their like imagination about science. Okay, so the facts and all those things can come later. Just listen to them, what they think about the world around them. So don't push them into doing science, but just ask really interesting questions which just spark their curiosity, and rest will follow.
Yeah.
Okay, we are way past our time, and I know there are one last question I will take. Somebody who's asking. Swati, please unmute yourself and ask the question. And others, please type in your question, because we are already half an hour beyond our scheduled time. So Swati, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Firstly, thank you so much for this awesome session, especially the skills which are told by Sarah ma'am are very beneficial for us, like project management, communication, problem solving. So my question is to Sarah ma'am, how we overcome any failure in our career?
How do you overcome any failure?
Yeah, ma'am.
I mean, you know, failure is the rule, not the exception. So just you have to just keep that in mind. You would probably see more failures than you will see victories, and that's just how life is. And I would say that just don't take them too personally, don't take them too seriously, use them as a stepping stone. That happened to me when I was doing my PhD. I started my PhD and I hit a roadblock, and I had to completely change my entire project. And, you know, instead of taking this, you know, to heart, my supervisor said, it's okay. You know, this is how science works. You don't know, you will not, it will not always work. And you have to, change directions, and you have to not take failures too hard. And so just don't take failures too hard. I know it's easier said than done, but that's how you have to constantly prepare yourselves, that use them, that they are stepping stones to what's next. They are good learnings. You learn a lot from failures. I have learned a lot from my failures. And so I would say that, you know, that's how you will prepare yourself, slowly, eventually. I won't say that you will overnight be expert in managing difficult and moments and challenges in your life. But eventually, when you'll start looking at the larger picture, the bigger picture of what really matters and what is that you can do and how you can contribute, is when, you know, these small failures in life will become very small in comparison to the larger mission in your life. So just keep at it, and keep marching ahead, and talk to people. You know, every time you feel down and out, you fail, just talk to people, because they may share experiences which are similar, and they might be able to lift you out of your misery by really giving you the right kind of perspective on life. So talk to people, and just try to stay positive, because life is difficult. Life is going to be challenging as you grow older, and everyone here who's old like me will tell you that it doesn't get any easier as you grow old. So that's just part of life. You've got to live with it.
Thank you, Sarah. Regina, do you want to comment on that too, from your point of view of how you have dealt with failures, and what advice would you give to young girls?
I stopped keeping count, mostly because I haven't really been applying for so much. I have started to again, but when by the time I was pregnant with my daughter, I was 28. I had applied for 72 jobs, and I have each and every one of those applications printed out in a folder. I did not get any of those jobs, none of them, not even a callback, nothing. But I kept them to remind me of the number of times I have applied for stuff. Like, you have no idea the number of "we regret to inform you" that sit in my email. I learned something from one of my mentors: the higher you go up, the more of those emails you're going to get, because it means that a lot more people are seeing what you're doing. But another thing I learned from her is, do not get used to failing. So I'm not going to tell you failures are normal and you should get used to them. I'm going to tell you failures are normal, but you shouldn't get used to them. You move, you shake it off and you move. You cannot, you sit in that, what we call a funk. It's hard to describe it, but when you start to tell yourself, this is so hard to do, I don't know if I can do this. I got one just this morning, by the way. And it's life, guys. I don't know how else to put it. You need to fail fast. I think there's a saying that says that you need to fail fast. I think this was this yesterday? Let me just very quickly share my screen. I'm getting so used to shaking these ones off that I should write a book about this, and I probably will one day. But it's life. So do you see this? I applied for the Black Founders Fund from Google. I got this. This was Friday. This was yesterday. They said, unfortunately, you didn't get in. But where is that? Where they said there's no shortage of doing them. But unfortunately, there it is. I felt really bad. You shake it off, you move on. I get so many of this, but you know what I also get is a lot of, we're happy to inform you. We saw your, those ones kind of overshadow the regret to inform you. So you need to I live in those moments a lot. Like even last week, just getting LinkedIn, like first of all, like just Deshawn just telling me, I saw your profile on LinkedIn and I would like for you to speak. She can tell you should have seen how quickly I said, yes, I would love to. I'm not well, but I will make myself well on that day, because I feel like you live in that funk of, I like this. I like sharing what failures I've had. And Sarah said something very important: speak to people. There's this notion that women do not speak to each other, and that's why they tend to fail, let's prove people wrong. If you have a problem, admit that I really don't know how to solve this problem, but I would love for you to take me through how you solved it. Like I said, it took us 9 years to get to where my organization is. It shouldn't take you 9 years as well. I don't believe in that. I believe you should learn from your friend's mistakes. So I will probably get on another call and sit down with Ashana and tell her how I did the business part of it, so she doesn't have to do the stuff that I did wrong, because I feel that's how you kind of teach each other, right? So you do the failures, you move on. It's life.
Thank you, Regina and Sarah, for those inspiring remarks on how to fail upwards in a way, right? You let your failures be the stepping stone that launch you ahead in your trajectory. So I'm so grateful that you both were here today, to share your experiences. This is my nephew who wanted to see the amazing scientists that we are interacting with. So yeah, I'm really grateful that you both are so open and candid about how life has been and how's the journey been at your end. And I'm really grateful that my fellows here from the Shiva STEM program have enjoyed interacting with you. Thanks to both of you for accepting this invitation so promptly. Regina, I still remember you literally replied to me in a few hours time saying, yes, I will. I would love to be there. So, so we are grateful, and we are grateful that through our platform, your stories are reaching young aspiring girls out there, and it will inspire them to understand that careers are not linear. They are constantly evolving, and the more innovative you get with them, higher are going to be your rewards, and failures are just part of it, but not the full thing about a career, right? So thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for giving us your time. And on behalf of the entire Vigyanshala team, as well as our fellows, I would like to extend our gratitude to both of you for being so open, candid, and awesomely and amazingly inspiring. And we look forward to connecting with you both separately and looking for avenues for partnerships and collaborations. So thanks. And I hope you enjoyed being here today.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
That was great. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for. And like I said, I enjoyed hearing Regina's journey, and I really loved the questions from the audiences.